Pop, 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 pass the popcorn. 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 Pass the popcorn.
Welcome to Alternate Ending, where we're discovering good movies, one bad movie at a time. I'm your host, Carrie Jarasinski, and this is Pass the Popcorn, where we are joined by the coolest people we know to talk about movies that are either so good or so bad that we can't stand it. We have to talk about them today.
And unfortunately, the coolest people we know all said no, so it's just me.
Okay, you've ruined it. I had a compliment today. Usually I bring you down at this point, and I was going to say today I'm joined by my favorite film critic that lives in Madison on the more like east side of Madison.
Just
yes,
felt a chill and doesn't even know why.
On the east side of Madison, but like on the left side of the street, like that guy, Mr. Tim Brayton.
Well, thank you. I live on the right side of the street technically, so I guess
it depends on what direction you're going.
It depends on what direction you're going. That's a very good point.
Very, very true. Have you ever seen that bit from Flight of the Conchords where he does that about like a woman that he's seeing? Have you ever seen that?
I actually have, yes.
It's like my favorite thing. Like depending on the street, the left side of the street, and on Tuesdays. Neither here nor there. I have no original jokes, and so that is what I was doing, but I am here with Tim Brayton, which makes this one of the best days of my lives. We're here today to talk about...
that was another compliment. That was an unbidden compliment.
I know, and I was just going to breeze past it, and you came back to it, so I'm glad you did, because it's all true. You know what we're going to talk about today? I'm a little afraid of it. I'm a little excited. Today, this was Tim's idea-ish. We sort of came up with it together.
I love that you've immediately dumped it in my lap in case it goes wrong.
I know.
This was our idea.
This was our idea. That's exactly
it was the editorial we decided this would be a good idea.
That's right. If this is a disaster, it was all Tim's fault. Today, we are going to pick our best and worst of the Sight and Sound Top 100 poll that came out recently for 2022. I don't know what any of that means, but we'll get there later. I do have a list. I don't know why I have a list. I don't know what this list means, but again, we'll get there later. But before we get to all that and what we've been watching, what's going on in your life? Anything cool?
Actually, yes, I do have something cool that will hopefully explain to some of you out there in podcast land, especially those of you who are Patreons who've been very patiently not sending in angry letters, as I have just gone week after week after week without writing any Patreon reviews. I have submitted job applications for jobs.
Oh, like Chick-fil-A?
Academic jobs.
Oh, academic jobs. Oh, okay.
Yes. So it's a major ass process. You have to send in like not a dozen, but you have to send in several documents, all of which are anywhere from 2 to like 5 pages long. And now I wait because the gears of academia grind slowly, and it is very unlikely I will have heard back on any of these jobs until sometime in January, or perhaps February, or perhaps even
maybe
March.
later. Well, if it's anything like how long your educational process is taking, it might actually be a couple of years.
that was an insanely low blow.
Was it? See, I don't even know.
That is as low as blows go.
Oh gosh. It didn't even mean it.
That wasn't just like you punched me in the balls. You tugged on my balls and you crushed one of them like a grape between your fingers.
I didn't know that. It just does feel like a long time. So, but
I agree. It does.
It does feel like
a long time, Carrie.
But for good reason, because I know you're doing a good job, and you should keep it up.
It's too late.
It's too late. It's too bad.
I'm standing here. My balls are crushed. I am being rushed to the emergency room for reconstructive ball surgery. There's no going back from it now, Carrie.
Oh no. Well, then in that case, I'll just move on and say that I'm excited that you're applying. So what would you do? What would be your job if you were to get one of these jobs?
They would be, I've applied for tenure track faculty positions in film studies. So I would teach young people how to watch movies.
Wow. That seems really, really cool.
I think it is. It's one of the jobs, I'm not going to go into too many details because, do that. One of the jobs is very near to Madison, Wisconsin. Near enough that I could still drive up. We could still hang out. Could still podcast. the
Wait,
other
you just
job
said
in
you
Madison,
would
Wisconsin.
drive up, though. Are you planning on driving your own car?
Oh, I thought this was something we'd already discussed. Yes, it is not going to be the case that I will be able to work in a college town. There's like 3 places in the Midwest that have research universities that I would not need a car. And it's really more like 2 because I'm counting Madison as one of those 3. So yes, I will be getting a car by next summer.
No, no, no.
It is
I just want to press into
not
that though, because we've talked about this for about a year now too, that we were planning on getting you actually behind the wheel of a vehicle, and I want to be honest, that hasn't happened yet.
And that hasn't happened yet. I've still got months to make it happen.
Yes.
It
Okay.
takes 15-year-olds like 6 weeks to
That's
learn how
true.
to drive a car. I can do it in a year.
I think so.
I'm not that much dumber than a 15-year-old.
That's true. That's true.
My ossified reflexes aren't that much more brittle.
I just do. So what we do when we're in the car with the girls, when somebody's driving absurdly, like I will admit I am too fast of a driver. I know that. But when somebody's driving absurdly slow, like only 5 over, I have a problem. Like I get a little ragey. Like I get like, what is happening? And so what I taught the girls to do is pretend it's grandma. So like if there's somebody that's driving like too slow, I can't handle it. They're like, and I'm starting to get a little revved. They're like, just pretend it's grandma, mom, pretend it's grandma. And then whenever we pass, inevitably, it is somebody that looks like grandma, like usually, with the caveat that I am 100% certain that we will be saying that behind your car.
I feel really attacked. This is now the second thing you've said in like 5 minutes. I should have just let you compliment me and like rolled with it. I didn't realize this was going to be like an all-out attack.
It's so true. I mean, acknowledge it.
When
though.
I was, I admit.
Yes,
so when I was learning how to drive, because I did learn how to drive
yes,
back in
yes.
the days when I was a child of 15 and a half or 16 or whatever age you were. It was like if it was a 40-mile-an-hour zone, I wouldn't drive at 40. I'd be like 35 is good.
I know.
No one's gonna like slam into me because I'm only driving at 35. I'm comfortable at 35. 35 works. Anytime I had to accelerate higher than 35, like my body felt like it was going to turn into just a puddle of ice water. I did not like it.
I can see this in you, and that's what I find amusing. So when we do see you on the road and I'm tailgating you, just know that it comes from a good place, that I'm trying to push you to the speed limit.
I'm so angry right now.
I know.
Still, and you wanted to teach me how to drive.
I was just going to say, I'm still totally willing to do that. I will drive.
Not now. Not if you said this.
Now I'm hurt. No, I can. I'm a good educator. I wouldn't tell you to do what I do when I drive, but I do like to get places faster than I think possible. This, I realize though, where I'm coming from, this place of negativity is coming from a place where what I'm going to tell you about myself is just riddled with opportunity for you to just completely bring me down. So I think subconsciously I'm like trying to level the playing field by going after you. Because you're going to have a heyday with this one.
What if I decide to just be kind and nice and supportive and loving?
I think
just to fuck with you.
You do with it what you want, but I think it's too good for you to just leave there. I don't think you have the wherewithal to just be like, oh, I'm just going to let's breeze past that.
I don't think you understand how petty I can be, Carrie.
I know. I
will be so petty kind to you.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll find out. So the last few weeks, I haven't been like feeling the best. Like I've been just feeling kind of like off. I've been feeling kind of weepy. Like commercials are making me cry. Like people send me like an Instagram story. I cry.
Are you going through the change?
I don't know. I think I'm having hot flashes too. I think I thought it was anger or like a sort of stress, but I am a little bit warm off and on. So I'm like, maybe I am. I mean, I'm in my 30s. I don't think I am. But I had this like moment where I'm like, okay, I got to get control of my life. Like I've got to go to the doctor for the first time. Like I'm going to do it. I'm going to go to the doctor. I haven't been to the doctor since I was like 17. So I'm like, I'm going to go in, I'm going to figure out if like I'm super healthy and like, this is just all in my head. So anyway, I go into the doctor, you schedule an appointment, go into the doctor, walking in. right out of the gate, there's a man coming behind me, and he's using one of those walkers that you can like both sit on or stand on to push. And he's struggling. There's like an incline. He's struggling. There's a hill. But he's slowly making his way up. I'm crying. I'm standing here crying in front of this man. So then I'm like trying to like sweep away the cries. Like the fact that he's struggling is making me really upset. So then I'm standing there by the door. I'm like holding the door. I'm like, why is no one holding the door for this man? But he wasn't going to get there for like 10 minutes. But now I've committed. So now I'm standing at the door and I'm like, I've got to hold this. Finally, he's like, lady, you got to go. It's going to take me a while like to get there. I'll hit the button when I get there. At this point, it's too late, though. Now I've got this image of this man in my mind that he's struggling. It's really hard. So now I'm sitting in the waiting room like a weirdo, like crying in the waiting room. They call me into the back room to get everything checked out. And I'm just still crying through my appointment. Should I have explained to the lady why I was crying? Probably not. But I did. I was like, there was this man outside. And so then she ends up sending me through all of these like neurological screenings based on the story that I've told her. So now I have a referral coming out of this appointment where I just went for a well check to a neurologist I have to go to, and a cardiologist as well, because I don't know, some other note in my account. So
because your heart's just too big.
I don't think so. I think it's arrhythmic. That's what the note said in the thing. So then I thought it was going to end here. Those referrals are upcoming. But this is where the real meat of the story is.
Not like a therapist, a neurologist.
Like a neurologist. Like what's going on?
They're going to like scan your brain.
Yes.
To see why it's sending you such fucked up signals.
Why it is the way it is.
They're trying to pathologize your basic human decency.
I don't know. So you're still keeping it nice. It's going to get worse. I thought maybe it was a fluke. I'm like, oh, well, maybe they're just going to like send me off. So anyway, I was like, you know what, Carrie, continue on this path. I went to the chiropractor. I haven't been to the chiropractor in like 8 years either. So go to the chiropractor, do the whole thing. He's like, hey, I also offer this service where I can like check your nervous system. It's like a nervous system health test if you're interested. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And the outlook's not good. So he takes all of these scans. And he shows me, like, he does the test. He shows me this graph of, like, a healthy brain. Like, this is what a brain is supposed to look like. And I was like, awesome. And then he's like, this is a very unhealthy brain. Like, this is, like, a dead brain. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then he, like, pulls up my chart. And it was, like, a mirror image of a deceased brain.
Oh.
What does this even mean?
Well, what does it mean? I have no idea what this means.
I don't know. I was like,
the doctor, he didn't explain to you what it means?
No, he sent me out of there with like sleeping pills. He's like, are you getting enough sleep? I was like, yeah, I think so. He sent me out of there with some like organic, like, I don't know, GABA pill or something like that. And he's like, I think maybe we should just start with good rest. And I was like, he's like, well, see you later. And I'm like, I think, am I at the end of life? Like, what is happening here? And he didn't answer. So I don't know what to do with that.
Are you a pea zombie, Carrie?
I don't know. I've gone into overdrive. I got home. I've cut out like every unhealthy habit that I've had for the last 30 years in the last like 8 days since this brain scan.
Okay. Well, yeah.
But again, is it a fluke or, I mean, I'm here today.
When you get the like actual doctors giving you a brain scan, if they also come back with it appears that your brain is dead.
Yeah.
That your skull is full of dead brain.
Yeah.
Then you know that something's up.
Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. I feel so much better now.
I mean, well, I promise not to say anything cruel, and I don't know what else to say.
Okay. Well, I guess I was just prepared for that. Now I don't know what to do with your kindness, but
because, well, I don't even know if I'm being kind or if I'm just being sort of flimsily neutral.
You're just, I haven't even told Rob about this yet. He's gone. I leave for filming in Ohio tomorrow. So they're on film site, and I was like, when do I let him know that I'm like knocking on death's door? Maybe when he gets back. That I'm brain dead. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so more to come on the health journey.
Do you want to know what I would have said if I was being cruel?
Yeah, I do. It'll make me feel better.
I would have probably first off said something to the effect of, well, you're a podcaster, so it doesn't matter.
Oh.
And I might have also found some way to work in the sentiment. So your brain has died in the last couple of years. How can anyone tell?
Ooh.
Might have been something I would have said.
Double zing. And see, and I'm back to feeling good again.
But I'm not saying those things because I'm nice.
Because you're a kind man indeed.
I'm a kind
man
person who won't insult you the way you insulted me.
That is true. You are better than I. But I'll keep you posted on this health journey, and if I am alive.
I'm curious
yes.
about your well-being.
Yes.
Let us say that you were to put your hands on the wall and just like shake your body very hard. Would your head rattle like a maraca?
I'm gonna have to go try. I'm gonna have to go try and see.
I think we should find
We'll
out.
just try. Yeah, I'll do that, and then we'll go to break. Ooh, something did crack in there, but I think that was in my neck.
That's probably just your neck.
That was just my neck. But yeah, more to come. More to come. I'm gonna start all these vitamins. I'm half calf coffee, only vegetables and fruit indefinitely until I get some brain.
You probably want to go down to the zero calf coffee.
I know.
Honestly,
it's just I'm not there yet.
Oh, I mean, if I were to go without coffee, I truly would experience brain death.
That's true. That's true.
I would at that point just be a comatose.
I would love to see the scan of your brain. Actually, your brain ran through my mind as I was seeing mine, and I was like, I wonder how they would look different. But more to come there.
Yes.
So.
I will say in terms of health, it's nothing compared to yours because it merely leaves me crippled, not actually incapable of functioning in the world. But I rolled my ankle twice in the same day.
The same ankle?
The same ankle. And it hurts.
Oh.
Well, and it was the same day that I went to see the very last films I will ever see at the AMC Madison 6 movie theater.
Oh.
Which has now closed.
And is that the one that you're going to bring today to tell us all about?
In fact, yes, you saw the segue I was building up. I feel very, very pleased. Yes, I did in fact see a couple of movies, a double feature that I'll maybe chit chat about just ever so quickly for our worth mentioning segment. What is our worth mentioning segment, Carrie?
Our worth mentioning segment is a segment where we talk about movies that we've most recently been watching. They could be
movies
bad.
That are worth mentioning.
They are worth mentioning. They could be bad. They could be good. They could be so many different things. But most of all, the one that you want to talk about. I'm going to talk about one today that I just recently saw. I'm going to bring Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. Who knew that was the title? I thought it was Knives Out too, but it's not. It's Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. I'm going to bring that. And then, do you want to hear about all the house renovation TV I've been watching?
I sure do.
I thought so. So maybe a little bit of that too. Which of the movies are you going to bring today?
I'm just going to do a very quick run through of a couple movies. So I missed Glass Onion, sadly, because of its very peculiar theatrical release. I was not able to make it happen. 7 days only in theaters, and 2 of those days were Thanksgiving and the day prior to Thanksgiving when I was traveling, so I missed out on that one. But I did see a couple movies over Thanksgiving weekend. So I will be just ever so quickly tossing out a little bit on The Fabelmans, the most recent film by Steven Spielberg, and She Said, which was one of those movies I saw at my double feature on my ruined ankle. But what I'm actually going to be talking about is Strange World, the new film by Walt Disney Animation.
Ooh, I'm excited. And I'm actually really excited about the Fabelmans one too. So I'm glad you're bringing it up because I was deciding whether or not that would be a movie for me. So maybe start there. Is it?
Well, yeah.
Is it good?
I will. Yeah. Because I just was going to give like a real quick thumbs up. Fabelmans and She Said are both doing, frankly, very poorly at the box office. And I'm here to tell you that's not fair. They're both good movies. They're both worth your time. Shockingly so, I would say in the case of She Said, I thought those trailers looked like shit. But it's not shit. It's good. It is, in fact, a good movie. So She Said, thumbs up. As for the Fabelmans, enthusiastic, waving my hands up in the air like I'm on a roller coaster level thumbs up. Really, really loved the movie. It's probably my number one film of the year right now.
What? That is so surprising to me. I didn't think you were a big Spielberg fan.
Are you crazy?
Well, I mean, like,
what do you mean?
I told you about my brain earlier, didn't I?
I guess that's true. I didn't realize that meant you were dumb. I just thought it meant you couldn't like aspirate
Function.
or something.
No, I think it's a stress test. But anyway, no, I thought you were. Maybe I'm thinking. Who am I thinking
I'm
of?
the one who talked on this podcast like 2 months ago about how ET still makes me cry every
Oh
time I
yeah,
watch it.
that's true. See, I think I've forgotten all the things that he's done. So
Is it because I don't adore Last Crusade quite as much as Raiders, so you just assume that I don't like Spielberg?
I assume so. So he was he on your top 5 directors of all time list?
I don't remember.
Because he was on mine.
I doubt that I had any Americans on my top directors of all time.
Yeah, see, like a true fan. So what was good about it? Good story. Isn't it like his life story?
Everything was good. The story was good. It's the story of his adolescence and his parents and their sort of marriage as it's because famously Steven Spielberg's parents divorced. That's like his whole thing. That's why all of his movies are about broken homes. And it's kind of about how that happened and how he was watching it happen, but he was kind of watching it from outside because by this point in his life he was already so invested in movies as a medium that like all he can really do is like he films them. He films their divorce essentially, and that's like how he processes it and how he makes it emotionally real to him. The story is sort of built around, well, Spielberg can't really maybe allow himself to feel these emotions, but he can make movies about those emotions, and that's what it is. And the whole thing very much feels like his apology to his parents for all the bad feelings he has carried around about them his whole life. Like it's sort of a like, I understand you, mom and dad, and I'm sorry that I didn't understand you till now. It's actually very like just impossibly hard.
Are his parents still around? Are his parents alive?
Both of his parents are dead.
Oh, see, so it's like the post-mortem, like the guilt that you carry because you can't say it out loud, but now you see.
I think that's exactly where this movie comes from. Yes.
Oh gosh, well, I'm so excited. And does he take like what type of angle does he take from like a like directorial standpoint? Meaning, like, is it more like documentary style or is it?
It's a movie.
It's like a movie.
It's a movie.
Is it arty or is it like? What? Is it arty or is it like for everybody?
It's for everybody. I mean, my mom and dad both loved this movie as well. They saw it with me over Thanksgiving weekend. So.
Oh, good. Thanks for the reco.
And they're not quite as normy as you are, but they're pretty normy.
Yeah, no, I feel like I'm far closer to them. Their brains work, but I still feel like I'm far closer to them than I am to you.
Oh, yes.
So,
absolutely.
I think I'm going to watch that tonight. Last night I was just digging for stuff to watch, and that is right up my alley.
I don't see how you could possibly watch it tonight, but maybe.
Wait, it's not on. I thought it was streaming now.
No, not yet.
Oh, bummer. All right. Well, I got to ditch the kids.
I think like another 2 weeks until it's streaming.
Okay. Well, I'm putting it on my list then. But that wasn't the one you wanted to talk about.
No, the one I wanted, they sort of did. So I guess I'll give you the quick version of Strange World, which is the newest Disney film, the 61st film in Disney's animated canon. This is Disney is trying to do something that they've tried to do multiple times that has never once worked out for them. They are trying to make a sci-fi adventure. This is about some sort of agrarian community living in a mountain valley. And there is a brave adventurer who lives in this mountain valley named Jaeger Clade, voiced by Dennis Quaid. And he has a son, Searcher Clade, voiced by Jake Gyllenhaal. And one day, when Searcher is 15 years old, Jaeger goes missing in the mountains and is presumed dead. And then we flash forward 25 years. In the interim, Searcher, the son, has discovered a kind of electrical plant that has become the fuel source for this entire community, giving them like hundreds of years of technological development in a generation. And the story begins when the plant starts rotting, essentially, and it like isn't going to produce its electricity anymore. This is going to create a huge problem for this culture. So Searcher and several other people, including his wife, voiced by Gabrielle Union, and their child, voiced by someone whose name I do not recognize and do not have at my fingertips, go on an adventure into a strange world underground, underneath the mountains, full of strange shapes and weird creatures that look like kind of animals, but like animals made out of grass or rocks or things of that nature. And whilst exploring the strange world, who should they find but the long-lost Jaeger Clade? And it becomes a story kind of about 3 generations of Clade men, the father, the son, and the grandson, reuniting and reconnecting and learning how to be a better family. And it's boring as hell.
Oh,
it's so fucking boring. I did not like this movie.
Oh, is it? Did you say it's animated?
It is animated.
It is animated. Okay.
It is disappointingly unattractive, given that part, like a big part of the movie is look at this wild fantasy landscape. And the fantasy landscape is interestingly designed, but it's all pink. Like the whole movie is just this uniform pink, and there's a reason for that, but it's not a reason that justifies how monochromatic most of this film is.
And what's the reason for it?
A spoiler.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're saying that the purpose doesn't like supersede
the purpose does not supersede how uninteresting I found this movie to look at for most of its running time. So that's a problem. It's also just like it's the same exact story about a dad and a son, and the dad has a certain set of expectations and the son doesn't live up to those expectations. But now we have that story twice because it's both father son pairs are going through the same arc. We've seen this story. I'm not learning anything new. Disney has not freshened this up at all. And Jake Gyllenhaal, bless his heart, not an interesting voice actor. Like he just kind of reads the lines. So I don't buy the characters. I don't care about the characters. I don't care about the way it looks. It's fine.
You just don't care.
Movie. I just found it very dull.
Okay.
It's directed by the same person who directed Raya and The Last Dragon, which I found to be also very, very boring.
Yeah, I didn't like that one either, and the kids did, and I felt guilty about it after because there's like they were like there's these great meanings in it and all of these things, and I was like, oh, I just didn't really like it.
I can't imagine. I will say this: Strange World doesn't have quite as grating a sense of humor as I thought that Raya and The Last Dragon had.
Okay.
So maybe in that sense it's an improvement, but it doesn't look as good, and it's the same thing. Like it's just telling you here's what the theme is, and there's no nuance. It's very boring.
Okay.
So if you didn't like Raya, I don't think you would like Strange World either.
All right.
That being said, it'll be streaming on Disney Plus by the end of the month, so I'm sure you and your family will have a chance to watch it.
I'm sure we will. We're always looking for something at least new for them that we can all watch together. So I'll watch it while multitasking will be my plan.
Yes.
One movie that I did not multitask through is Glass Onion.
Well, you couldn't have because you saw it in theaters.
Knives Out Mystery. Sometimes I multitask by napping. Honestly, I really love those chairs in the theater.
Well,
and
sometimes you might be multitasking like the jackhole that I saw she said with who couldn't get off her goddamn phone.
Worst thing for me.
It's like, are you reading the news stories whilst you are watching the film? Because they're telling you how they wrote the news story.
Yeah. I'm like
really offensive.
Really, I find that really offensive to the point where like I'm not a confrontational person, but I want to confront them. Like I want to walk up and be like, hey, did you not see the guy at the beginning who said turn off your phone? Like I just want to be like, hey, follow the rule. Like it really, really bothers me. But that did not happen in the one that I was in because I was with my parents when I saw this, and I was with Rob, and Rob kept his phone put away, which was nice. But I saw the first Knives Out with my parents when it came out a few years ago. And I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't said this to them, but I did lie to my parents after the first one because they got out of it and were like, that was so good. That was the best movie. What a mystery. Like that got me. And I was like, oh.
Are your parents Jimmy Stewart?
Kind of. Like, kind of, actually. If I think about who they are, probably yes. They just loved it. And then I just felt like, oh, I must have missed something because I did not enjoy the first one.
I found the first one very droning.
Same.
It's so long for what it is.
Yeah. And not like a twist that I cared for. It just felt like it was trying to be something that I didn't care about in the first one. And so we left it with, again, just a solid lie of me being like, well, loved it too. Like, it was so good.
Well, you might be about to make me excited for Glass Onion, Carrie, because no one I've talked to found Knives Out boring the same way I did, but it sounds like you might have.
I did. And that's where I wonder, and I can't wait for you to see this. I really enjoyed the second one a whole bunch. So I don't know.
I think I'm going to enjoy the second one more than the first one too.
I think you will. There's something about it. So there's a vibe. Let me tell you a little bit about what it is. So First of all, it's a completely huge cast, super random, but like in such a funny way. And I think that's the whole thing, is that the movie's haphazard in of itself. Like it's meant to be sort of all over the place and wild and kooky and like all of that. So you already have that. So then to have the cast with like Daniel Craig, Ed Norton, Kate Hudson, Dave Bautista, the big guy
I am at this point firmly on board with Dave Bautista.
I
Anything
love
he's in,
him.
I am automatically more interested in.
Same. And he's awesome in this. He's hilarious. He's funny. He's just so bulky, and I just love bulk. Like I just want to give him a hug. Like he just looks squeezable. Janelle Monáe is in this too, and she has such a different vibe than all of these people. Catherine Hahn, Leslie Odom Jr. is in this, and then I won't tell. There's a couple other cameos that are in here that are really short that are gonna just be like, what in the world? But to me, they're hilarious and perfect, like little mini cameos, because it's so weird. But the whole story all in of itself is not anything wild or kooky. It's what you would expect. It's basically Benoit. Is it Benoit Blanc or is it Benoit?
Benoit.
Okay. Shit. God damn.
Benoit Blanc.
I'm going to edit that out. That's embarrassing.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
This is like the time I said like viola and you're like, voila. I'm like, oh shit. Anyway, so.
I can tell that you're like, your brain is just done because you don't usually say shit.
Oh, I know. I devolve into swears when I'm just like really fatigued. Yeah, that is what's happening exactly.
I think that's fucking cool.
I'm just gonna get back off those sleeping pills that I have. So, what did we just say? It's not Benoit.
You just said Benoit.
It's Benoit.
Benoit Blanc.
Benoit. So his name is Benoit Blanc. He's feeling kind of like the pandemic blues, like we all are. He is like really wanting to be a part of another mystery. And on set of the movie, all of these people get sent this mysterious box. It's like one that you have to like figure out, like crack the code, how to get into the box. In the box, what will they find? So it's a coming together then of a bunch of these characters. They come to, this isn't a spoiler, you see it in the previews, they come to Ed Norton, who is apparently like a multi-bajillionaire guy. And thus ensues like it's what's supposed to be like a murder mystery dinner party. It doesn't go that route. It goes all over the place from there. Again, I don't think there's anything like wild about it, but it was super, super fun. And it's like...
I don't need it to be wild. I just need it to be fun.
It's fun. Yeah, that's the thing. And I think it was like, I enjoyed the entire thing. I laughed at all the like, just parts that they were like trying to get me with. Like, I just think it was... funny and quirky. It was poking fun of itself in sort of that like, and then there were none vibe, as well as like the like sleuth that Daniel Craig is. Like the whole thing I just thought was like really, really good. The irony here. So I'm really high on this movie. Really enjoy it. We leave the theater.
No.
We leave the theater and I'm like, oh my gosh, what did you think? Like I was so excited to be redeemed for my previous, again, like lie. And they were like, meh, it was okay. I like the first one better. I'm like, what? What are you even saying? Like, this is so much better. And across the board, yeah, Rob and my parents preferred the first one. So
well, I will certainly check in. Goes to streaming on the 23rd. As I said, it had a one week only run in theaters. Boo. But it will be hitting Netflix on the 23rd. I might have a chance to see it before then. Fingers crossed. Netflix has been sending us their screeners, and it's been fun and good. We get these big old boxes full of like trinkets and gewgaws and whatnot. And so we got a big old box full of Pinocchio stuff and a big old box full of White Nose stuff. We got a big old box full of Glass Onion stuff. But in a wild twist worthy of a murder mystery, there was no screener of Glass Onion.
Oh no.
And this is true of every person in my critics group. We all got the box with like a handkerchief that says Glass Onion on it. But we didn't get a disc to
so you
play
think
Glass
that's
Onion
intentional?
on our TVs.
What is that? It's intentional?
I don't have the slightest idea, but it pissed me off.
Well, when you do see it, report back. I'm really, really curious to see what you're going to think. But again, if I had to say, I would recommend getting out to see it. All right. Well, let's head to our break, Tim. And then when we get back.
Nothing rattling around in my sack.
Oh my gosh, there was something in your sack. But I didn't touch it. I didn't touch it. I
No.
saw something in your sack. Do you want to wait while I find what was in your sack, or should I?
I mean, you can rifle around in my sack.
I will rifle around.
You can jiggle it a little bit.
I am horrified now that you reminded me. But yeah, you can always submit to Tim's sack. It's one of those things that's always available. It's always free. And
My sack is for all.
sack is
to
for all.
enjoy.
Yeah, you do not exclude. So I am going to ask you this question. Are you ready for it? I haven't read it myself. So, oh my gosh, this is fate. This is fate. Dear Tim Sack, do you have any thoughts on the new BFI Sight and Sound poll results? Your devoted listener / reader, Paula Jane Solspice.
Well, Paula,
we do.
And you'll have to wait till after the break.
And you'll have to.
But before we head into the break, Carrie,
you might be wondering about ways to support the show, just like Tim. You can join Patreon, get early access and exclusive content, make us watch a movie, pick your own episode topic, and more from our Patreon site. You can also support our show through our Amazon banner on alternateending.com and make your purchases through our site. Doing it is easy. Just go to our site, click on our Amazon banner, and seamlessly go about your purchases. You can also leave us a review on wherever you stream podcasts. All of those make us super, super happy. I'm probably the one that reads them, but I do share them when I see them. So when we get back, Paula, we will have for you our picks for the best and worst of the Sight and Sound greatest movies of all time. Whew. You ready?
I feel good about this so far. I feel really, really, really good vibes.
I do too. Okay. And we're back here today with something that I know nothing about. So I'd like to lay the groundwork here. Tim, when you talked about the Sight and Sound greatest movies of all time, I was like, I don't know what you're saying. But then I didn't want to tell you that. So I Googled it. And I was like, oh, okay. There's a little bit of a list here. And I was like, oh, there's like a couple good movies on here. So can you lead in by telling me what is this thing and why is it important?
I mean, you're the one who Googled it, so you're probably
I just looked at the list. I'm one of those scanners. I didn't actually read anything. I just scanned.
So sight and sound are two of the human senses.
Yes.
We see things and we call that sight.
Yep.
We hear things and we call that sound.
Yep.
Now, movies, you might have noticed. Maybe not. You see movies and you also listen to them.
Sometimes smell.
Well, that's not something built into the movie. That's whether the theater has been well kept or not. But so sight and sound are the qualia of film. Does that make sense?
All of that makes sense, but why?
Sight and Sound then became the name of a magazine.
Oh, it's a magazine.
That magazine was published by the BFI, the British Film Institute, much like our own AFI, but better funded because there's more public funding for the arts in Great Britain. And basically, in 1952, post World War II, there's this new movement to say, hey, you know, these things, these movie things, they seem pretty good. Like, they don't just seem like, hey, let's go in and watch like pictures. It's like, actually, people are doing art with these moving pictures. We should like poll a bunch of movie critics, because this is the golden age of movie criticism. Like the sort of post-war years really begat a whole new generation of people writing about movies. We should poll all of these people whose job is looking at and thinking about and writing about movies and ask them, what do you think are the best movies ever made? So this is 1952. A whole bunch of critics were polled. They all submitted a top 10 list, their top 10 films of all time, and the magazine like sort of aggregated and collated and came up with, here is the total list of what movies all of these critics think cumulatively think are the best films of all time. And so every 10 years since then, Sight and Sound magazine has re-polled a bunch of critics. So every year that ends in 2, we get a new list. In 1952, the best film of all time was the then 4-year-old Bicycle Thieves. In 1962, Citizen Kane was the film that was voted number 1. And that's sort of where the reputation that Citizen Kane is the best film of all time, it comes from this list. Like that was where it really got codified. So 62, 72, 82, 92, 2002. So many, many decades running, Citizen Kane won and won and won and won and won. Then in 2012, major upset, Citizen Kane drops down to number 2 and is
Oh,
replaced at number 1 by Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo. Skip ahead, they doubled the number of polls they sent out this year. So a lot of new critical voices who've never been part of the Sight and Sound poll got polled, and the results were published last week. And it was quite the upheaval. Apparently, I was not visiting our Discord server, but apparently the alternate ending Discord had lots and lots of thoughts, both excited and angry about this list. And that's what this list is for, of course. It's to make people excited and angry. But suffice it to say, we have our 4th number 1 film ever made of all time. The first one ever directed by a woman. And that film is Chantal Akerman's Jean Dielman, 23 Quai de Commerce. I run out of ways to pronounce it, but basically John Dielman, the 3.5 hour long Belgian film that you've heard me talk about before, I think.
you probably have. So
do you remember me talking about the film about a woman cooking?
I think I do.
It's that movie.
It's that movie. So that's super, super helpful because, again, no context on that this was a magazine. Would you say, so just a couple like fact checks on this or just perspectives on this. So do they pool or how do they decide which critics, I guess, are a part of this? How do you decide?
Longevity and prominence of the publication they're writing for. People who have written for Sight and Sound get like sort of grandfathered in, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But they're basically just looking for who are the like high prestige critics in multiple languages, English, French. I don't know if they really broke outside of Europe and America, but they might have, because it did seem like they were trying extra hard this time around to make sure they had a broader range of voices.
Yeah, because that's what I wonder how it changes. Like if you do really, I mean, over a 10-year period of time, if you do bring in a lot of the same people time and time again, like you are going to probably get a list that looks very similar, especially with the ones that have the traditional movies on here, like Citizen Kane, Vertigo, like all of those.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think one thing we know for sure is that this year's list was younger. This year's list of critics was younger because it is a very new list. Like
okay.
a lot of films on this list are quite recent, I would say.
I know, but there are still some oldies for you out there, which is good.
There are some.
So we will talk about it. And I think the idea for today, I went through and sort of did a like, whoa, I'm so glad this is here. Like what were what was the movie that jumped off the page for me? I have 3, but I do have a number 1. But what were the couple that jumped off the page for me is like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad they're here. I love this movie. And then also turn it to the, what in the crap? Like, why is that here? That movie's not that good. It's not like in top 100 form for a movie. So I got a couple of those too. Got some doozies on here.
I got some of those as well. You know, a lot of this list has been on previous lists. So even though it's easy to talk about the upheaval, like it's not like I'm going to be like, oh, wow, Sunrise is on this list. Well, fucking obviously Sunrise has been on this list since 1952. I'm bummed out that Sunrise is no longer in the top 10. I can tell you that much. Not a single silent film in the top 10.
Well, wait, hang on. I thought I saw City Lights
on
there.
No. Man with the Movie Cameras in the top 10. I keep forgetting that's a silent. No Hollywood silent films in the top 10.
Okay.
And no, City Lights did not make the top 10.
No, it didn't. I saw it on there though, and that I love that one.
It did make the top 100 for sure.
Okay. This was a weird list for me because here's something else.
It is a weird list.
It's weird. Also, if you were, this is just a question you don't know the answer to, but I'd love your perspective. If you were to go out to like Rotten Tomatoes, let's say, and create a list based on the data that you could derive from a broad set of critics. So like go out there and say, hey, based on their ratings that they've already based on that data, how similar do you think that this list would be to a broad set of people that would be reviewing it?
I mean, I don't know that that's really an apples to oranges thing because Rotten Tomatoes, you're either telling it that the film is good or bad.
Yeah.
And you're not really telling it this film is okay, fresh, versus this film is my favorite film of the last 5 years, also fresh.
Yeah.
So I don't know that the Rotten Tomatoes data would really be useful. If you're asking in terms of, do I think that there are films on this list? Every film on this list has incredibly widespread critical acclaim. Like
Okay.
none of these films is obscure, I wouldn't say, and none of these films is contentious.
Okay. Well, that's
When I say contentious, I mean like none of these are films that got like 60% on Rotten
sure,
Tomatoes.
sure,
These
sure,
are all
sure.
like 95 and above on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay. And with that, I do wonder when you say there's widespread awareness of these movies, I'm fearful of giving you how many of these movies I've seen because I don't actually know if, from your perspective, if it will make me seem credible or less credible because I did tally how many I've seen.
You're not a professional film critic.
That's true.
Carrie.
How many of these have you seen?
I know you haven't seen John Dillman.
I have not yet. How many of these have you seen?
98.
What two have you missed?
Wanda, and I forget what the other one is.
Okay.
Wanda was the one where I'm like, Jesus Christ, I need to finally get around to fucking seeing Wanda. And I can look up and see what the other one that I haven't seen is yet. And you can tell me how many you've seen.
Okay. Well, tell me what number would make me seem credible if I told you it.
If you've seen more than 10, I think you're credible.
You're just saying that so that I say my number. And then I've seen 25.
I'm saying that because I told you I was going to be kind.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You can tell I'm fragile. You can tell I'm fragile. I see. So I've seen 25 of the movies that are on here.
Ooh, that's low.
Oh, you're such a jerk. Ooh.
I'm such a what?
Well, yeah, I said you're such a jerk, but I didn't mean it. I regretted it after I said it. But
it's okay. You can call me a jerk. It's fine.
No, I'm not. I feel terrible.
25 is about what I would have guessed. Honestly, I would have guessed somewhere between 20 and 30.
Oh gosh. I do have some on here though that I'm like, ooh, why haven't I seen it? And then I also was thinking as I went through this list how many I've seen thanks to our lovely Patreons, because I was like, ooh, I wouldn't have seen that. I wouldn't have seen that. Like most of the movies that I've seen on here are due to alternate endings. So I appreciate the efforts to show me these high bar movies from your perspectives and everybody's perspectives. So with that said, Tim, do you have sort of like do you have one as we look at this and say, this is the best movie that's on this list that you can call out?
I mean, my favorite movie of all time, or the movie that I think is the best movie of all time, is on this list. So in that sense, yes, I do. I would say that Passion of Joan of Arc it's the best movie and it's on this list. So there you have it.
I have not seen that one yet.
It's so good, you won't like it.
I know.
I guarantee you won't like it. It's tied for number 21 with Yasujiro Ozu's Late Spring, which is also a very good movie. By the way, the other film that I have not seen is Céline and Julie Go Boating. So
okay,
that's also what I need to get around to. That one's like 3 hours long, so that's why I haven't seen it yet.
And how long has Passion of Joan of Arc been on the list? Like, has it made it every year, every decade?
I don't think it was on the first couple because it was a film that was extremely hard to see until the 80s.
Okay.
So I think that one arrived on the list, but that and Sunrise have been like the two silents that like are always sort of there, the silent like masterpieces. I will say in terms of what is new to the list that I'm super excited to see, because there are some new additions that I'm super excited for. Sort of very famously, there's actually three. I'm sorry. There's three. There's also Abbas Kiarostami's Close Up, which I have somehow not managed to see yet, even though I believe it was number one on my films I'm guilty I haven't seen that we did a few months back.
Yes, I think it was.
But so there's three I haven't seen. But sort of very, very famously, this list has a substantial increase in the number of films directed by women that appear on the list, meaning that for the first time ever, we have a film or two, in fact, by Anya Svarda, who you know.
Wait, which one?
My sweet. We have The Gleaners and I, and we have Cleo from 5 to 7, right there at 14th. And that's probably the single addition that makes me the happiest, is seeing Cleo at number 14. I think it is a just incredibly good and human movie. I didn't actually realize it had not previously made the Sight and Sound Top 100, and that's stupid. So I'm really, really glad that it made the list now, because it is. I wouldn't call it the 14th best movie of all time, nor even particularly close to that number, but it is such a rich movie and such a giving and generous and good movie that I think it is really appropriate and necessary that if we're looking at like what is the starter pack of 100 films, Cleo should be on it, and I'm really glad that it is.
Do you think, this is me being cynical, I'm being cynical right now, is there any part of her making it onto this list because she's gone? Is it like an artist where you put like Monet on the list now because he's gone?
I think that's maybe part of it,
Oh,
honestly.
I was hoping you were going to say no, but you're like, yeah, no,
I
maybe.
find it hard not to be cynical about this list in general. Honestly, this list feels very manicured to me. Um, but no, I think that certainly helped Anya's. If that were the only reason, it's not the only reason. Like I think that there has been in general, since the '90s in particular, there's been a just growing appreciation of Anya's. There was a great big box set a couple years ago that I'm sure helped contribute to her sort of prominence in general and on this list. Certainly, Faces Places did a lot to really make people remember how much they loved her. So I think there was a lot of different things going on, but I do think the fact that she passed away helped. Yes.
Okay. All right. And so do you want me to go to my favorite? How do we do this? Or do you have other ones that you want to call out that you think are really great picks that are on here?
I mean, to be clear, I think that John Dielman being number one is frankly silly, and I think it is not going to be to the benefit of John Dielman. Um, so Carrie, remember how quite recently we came up with a list of the movies you hate that everybody else loves?
I do.
And remember how you had Citizen Kane on that list?
Yeah, I do.
So
stand by
here's
it.
the thing. What? I know I'm not going to attack that. I'm saying that's a response people have. You know, they hear, oh, Citizen Kane's the best movie of all time. I better go see it. And then they see it and they're like, ooh, this movie's boring. This movie's old. This movie's whatever. Citizen Kane is like fucking Iron Man compared to Jean Dielman. So I feel we now have 10 years worth of impressionable minds being like, oh, well, if John Dielman is the best movie of all time, I better go see it. And they're gonna fucking hate it.
They're gonna hate it. Yeah.
And that concerns me because I do love Jean Dielman. Again, it's not in my top 10. It's not even really in my top 20, but it is in my top 30. This movie is going to die.
Oh.
This is not an amount of hype that this movie can live up to. Because again, this is not a crowd pleaser. This is a 3.5-hour movie about a woman cooking.
But that's the thing. I think that's where you get into this. Of like, that's where I guess I'm trying, maybe what I was trying to get at earlier of like, when you do sort of have this narrow lens and you ask a certain type of person, a certain type of question, you're going to get a certain type of answer. And that's probably John Dielman.
This is a movie. This is a list made by critics.
I know. But you guys don't always know.
People who like John Dielman.
Yeah, but not like, again, everyone's going to go out and see this list and be like, oh, I'm going to see it. And now all of a sudden, John Dielman's going to have like a 4.0 IMDb rating.
I'm very concerned about
that. Everyone's going to see it. Yeah. I mean, I even looked at Vertigo as I was trying to come up with the ones that I was like, how is this even on here? Like, what are the worst? I was just like, I liked Vertigo, but like, if I was a person that just came in cold, would I be like, wow, that's a masterpiece, best movie of all time? No, I probably wouldn't. And I would come out like maybe cynical and I don't know. I just think
I
expectations.
think we will certainly not see Jean Dielman being in the top 10 in 2032. I'm very confident in that because I do think it's going to get a backlash like Kane never did. Because at least Kane is still like a fun to watch movie. Jean Dielman is not.
Yeah. Okay.
And I know you don't think. I know you don't think Citizen Kane is a fun to watch movie. What I'm saying is, you don't have a vocabulary for how much you would not enjoy Jean Dielman.
Okay.
And I kind of want to make you watch it now just so we can see you fight with that.
What about barf swoggle? Barf swoggle seems like the right word.
You know what? Here's my pitch. Patreons.
No.
I think you need to select a worth mentioning for Carrie. And I think it needs to be the recently anointed best movie of all time.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to cut that out too. There's so much I'm going to cut out from this episode. I will see. With that. But I'm
exaggerating. It's only 3 hours and 21 minutes long. It's not 3.5.
Okay. That seems possible and doable. Are there any other favorites? Anything else you want to call out that you were excited about?
I mean, certainly I like virtually all of the films on this list. So, I mean, I don't want to say that there's anything I'm excited about or not. Meshes of the Afternoon by Maya Deren made its premiere at number 16. That is way too high. It is nowhere close to my favorite experimental film. But the fact that there's experimental films on this list now feels like a huge watershed, and I'm super, super excited for that. So I'm glad to see that showing up. But yeah, like a ton of stuff that I love. This is my kind of movies that goes
Yeah,
onto this list.
I know.
So like I could give you a list of like my 80 films from this list that I adore, but I think I'm going to limit myself to just saying that the Anya Svarta of it felt great, and I'm really happy that happened.
Oh, good. Well, I only liked 3 of these movies that are on this list.
3 of the
So
25.
three of the 25, 3 of the 100, however you want to slice and dice the data. I did see 3 movies on here that I was super, super, super excited about. They weren't quite as high up in the ranks as the ones that you've talked about. Mine squeaked in at number 100. So I added to my list that I was excited to see Get Out on here. I loved that movie. I know you were like ish on it, cold, warm-ish, I think, lukewarm. But
That was warm. That was 3.5 stars.
oh, you were? Okay. I think I was like 5. I really, really, really liked that movie. Everything about it. I do love Jordan Peele. I liked Us not as much as Get Out. So Get Out, I think, was one that like opened my eyes to him as a director. I really, really liked him. I'm currently listening to a podcast that he's on. I like him even more because he's really funny. He wears cute sweaters. And so I'm like, gosh, now I'm really glad that you're on this list at number 100. It's actually 95, I think. 'Cause I think there was
It's a 5-way tie.
Yes, there was a tie. So really at 95, even higher. So I had that one on my list. Then I was super, super excited to see that Parasite made the list at number 90. That was one that you and I both agreed was a million stars. I think I gave it 5.
You did. I gave it 4.5.
You gave it 4.5. Yeah, I loved that one. And then culminating at my number 1, I got the heart flutters. I got the flutters everywhere, all over the place. Just even like reading the title, I don't even know what you call them, but I got the flutters at number 30, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. And I was just like, I gotta go watch that again. Rob's out of town. I was like, I'm just gonna cue that one.
Yes, that's the kind of movie you watch when the husband's away.
Your
right?
husband's gone. I even thinking about it, I was just like, whew, like I just still feel steamy from that. And it's been months. It's probably been like a year since I've seen that movie. I was so happy to see that one on here just because it actually surprised me. Like it just didn't feel like one that would make a critical, like I'm a critic. Like I'm going to put this list together. Or I'm not going to put.
Yes, the most highly regarded film of 2019 does not feel like a film that critics would rally behind.
But there's been so many others too. Like there's been other ones that have really like stood out too over the last 10 years that I would think this wouldn't be the one that I would think would be on here for some reason. Sure. I don't know why. But yeah, that one, if you have not seen that one, I've talked about it a few times. I think I talked it about at like, if I possibly decided to leave Rob for a Woman, that would be the movie that it would be in. Like, it is just one of the steamiest movies I think that I've ever seen. So I was really excited to see that one on here. And you didn't mention it. I thought maybe you would.
I'm going to.
Oh, no.
I felt so bad. Should we talk about we're saddest to see on this list?
No, I think this is, in closing, we would like to thank you all for joining. I don't want to talk to you about this. I just realized.
There are 4 films from the 2010s. I don't approve of movies that are less than 10 years old being on this list, flat out, full stop.
Holy smokes. Okay.
So the 4 films I would immediately strike from this list would be Get Out, Parasite,
you monster,
Portrait of a Lady on Fire,
you monster.
My criterion, my fundamental, these are the ground rules for when I would construct a list like this, and I did on Letterboxd. I put my fake ballot, like if I'd been asked what would I have submitted. One of my ground rules was nothing that I saw for the first time in the last 5 years. And 2 of these movies came out for the first time in the last 5 years. So by default, I couldn't have put them on.
What arbitrary criteria is that? What if you
because
loved a movie?
You need to make sure it sinks in. You need to make sure it lingers and lasts.
So you're
there are
saying
movies that I thought I was going to love and adore for always, that after 6 or 7 years, I was like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that.
So you're saying if tomorrow you were seeing Passion of Joan of Arc for the first time, you'd be like, maybe I'll let it sit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I saw a movie about 3 weeks ago called The Doll that I want to make it a federal requirement that in order to vote, you have to have seen the movie The Doll. I would still not put The Doll on this list because I only saw it 3 weeks ago.
Wait, is The Doll What is that movie? Is that the one where the doll comes to life by the guy who? Do you know who I'm talking about? The one that like, oh gosh, that terrible movie that you liked. Oh my gosh, I can't think of the one that Rob and I both didn't like and you liked by that terrible director, and it was campy and
Gotta
weird.
give me more.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I can get there.
Oh, are you thinking of Dead Silence by James Wan?
No, I'm thinking of the movie where it sort of like plays off the Matrix. It's super campy and weird. You're
thinking of Malignant.
Yes, that director.
And his doll movie is Dead Silence.
Oh,
are you thinking of Megan?
Megan's
not even out yet.
Oh,
no, The Doll is a German movie from 1919.
Oh. It took us a while to get there. So the answer is no.
I knew you weren't describing it. I was trying to figure out what you were describing. No, I'm talking about a silent German sex farce from 1919.
And you love it.
I love it, but I would not put it on this list because I only just saw it. Maybe my ardor will cool off.
Maybe
it will.
What a terrible list you have.
Nothing that I saw for the first time in the last 5 years, and nothing period made in the last 10 years. Those are two of my ground rules for any all-time list I ever construct. And there are 4 films from the last 10 years. So I'm just like, nope, I would immediately get rid of all of them. Maybe they're great, maybe they're not.
Makes no sense at all. But what I will tell you, try to make me feel better, scoop me up. If you had to pick one of those movies, though, that you think was the best choice, which one would you choose?
I would pick Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Thank you, Tim.
I am also terrified that Portrait of a Lady is also going to have the Jean Dielman problem, where people, I think young people like 12 and 14-year-olds, like 10 years from now when they're watching that movie for the first time, are going to have no goddamn idea why it's number 30 on this list, and they're going to think it's overrated.
Why? Why do you think that?
Because it's clearly not the 30th best movie ever made.
I mean, in my heart it is. In my heart and soul.
And in your heart, Citizen Kane is bad. So your heart is just as dead as your brain, Carrie.
I knew it was going to come back, and I'm glad it did. I'm glad you're back, Tim. I'm glad you're back.
Well, I mean, there was no way around it. Once I heard you saying the only 3 films I liked were A, B, and C, and I was like, well,
that's my bottom.
At least you don't love Moonlight.
That's true. Well, and so here's the other thing I was going to actually say. I was debating about that one for my worst. And it's not that I didn't like Moonlight. I absolutely liked Moonlight. I never in my mind walked away thinking like, wow, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen. And at that Oscars that year, when it won over La La Land and that whole snafu, I preferred La La Land. Like, I love La La Land. So I didn't even think it was the best movie of that year.
The La La Land Boosters Club that you and I are both members of is dogged and small, and I have faith that one day history will bear us out.
Yeah, I think it will. Well, and in the meantime, we won't tell anybody.
I gotta be honest, and I understand what it sounds like, what I'm about to say. Moonlight and Get Out are both really faddish picks. They are not going to last the test of time. I just don't think they are.
What does it mean if you're faddish?
I'm saying that they get picked because of they are fads.
I thought you were calling them fat,
movies.
And I thought maybe that was like
no,
like PHAT.
No. I'm saying they are the movies for right now. They are not movies that were built to last 40 years.
And I actually get that. I get that. I was excited to see Get Out, but I still get that. I do think Parasite.
Portrait of a Lady on Fire, I think, was built to last.
Yeah, I think
whether
so too.
It does, I cannot say.
I feel like Parasite too, though. Don't you think?
I think so. Parasite's tough to say just because it is so much about like a specific economic moment. But I feel like of the 4, if I were to rank them in the order of how long I think they will last, I would probably go Portrait first, Parasite second, Moonlight third, Get Out fourth.
Okay. All right. Well, I will now give you my worst.
Tell me again for the second time in 3 weeks, how much do you goddamn hate Citizen Kane, Carrie?
I didn't even have it on here. I didn't need to take the low blow. I didn't need to take it because what the purpose of that other episode was to say, like, movies that every single person loves that I don't. And so
and you now have a mathematical proof that every single person loves Citizen Kane.
Right. And so now I'm coming back to say, hey, why is this movie on here? And there were a couple that I was just like, really? And so a couple of them are Blade Runner, 1982. Like, if you have Blade Runner on here, to me, why don't you have Terminator? Why don't you have like another movie that's a guy running around just shooting things up? Like, this movie doesn't stand out to me as like some sort of like classic best movie by any stretch.
It's for the production design.
You know,
people who adore this movie, like me, adore it because of the design.
I just remember thinking it was super dark. You couldn't even see anything. It was just dark and gloomy. And then remember there was that scene that was sort of unsavory that Harrison Ford does. You know what I'm talking about?
Do an unsavory thing. Yeah.
He does unsavory things.
He does unsavory things. Sometimes people do unsavory things, Carrie.
Remember to the robot? Yeah, it's just that movie didn't work for me. And then to be like, yeah, like better than all of these other movies that are in a similar genre, I'm not buying it. I didn't think so. The other one I've got for you at that one was number 54. Blah, Blade Runner. Number 25, also The Night of the Hunter. Why is that on here?
I honestly couldn't begin to tell you why it's all the way up at number 25. That seems incredibly generous. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you the full-throated defense of Night of the Hunter I think you were hoping for.
No.
I love it. This is not a movie that makes my top 100.
Yeah. It makes
probably
my top
not even
700.
if I limit my top 100 only to American films.
Yeah.
It's very atmospheric. It has some very warm sort of fable-like qualities. 25 is demented for this movie, to be frank.
Yeah. I looked back. I was like, do I even remember this movie? So then I watched some clips and then I was looking at like little picture vignettes of it because I was like, this movie was boring. I think it was a Patreon pick too. Really sorry about that for whoever gave that to us years ago. But I again, not a movie that I think should make this list of 100. So, and I honestly was just going to leave it there. I'm going to leave at the door the Citizen Kanes. Vertigo was just fine, but I'm not going to pick on it. In the Mood for Love, here's the thing. I almost was like, let's talk about In the Mood for Love, but here I won't.
In the Mood for Love puts me in the same exact position that Jean Dielman does of like, here's a movie that I fucking love.
Yeah.
And how dare you put it in the top 10 of all time is where I'm at. So it's like, In the Mood for Love at number 5, fuck off. And I don't like feeling that way about In the Mood for Love. I love In the Mood for Love. It's not in the top 10 movies of all time. It just isn't.
It just isn't. It's just in the wrong spot. And the reason I didn't bring it up on my worst of is just like, it's on me. I think I realize at this point that it's on me. Like that I need to actually go back.
Given that you like movies that are about beautiful people being smoking hot.
Yeah.
You do need to revisit In the Mood for Love.
I think I just wasn't in the mood for it.
I think you weren't in the mood.
Yeah.
In the mood for love.
Yeah, I know that. I was doing that on purpose.
I get that.
I think so. I think I wasn't there or like didn't know what I was expecting. So I think I need to do it again because I do remember it being super sexually tense. Like what's going to happen?
I think it might literally have the 2 sexiest humans.
Yes.
In all of movies. And
their costumes. I do remember their costumes being like, gosh, they were like paper, like glued on basically to their physiques. They're just, yes, they are very, very beautiful.
I'm just saying, I know some of the things you like in movies and those things are present in The Mood for Love.
It's true.
So I do think you need to reevaluate.
I will. I'm going to rewatch. It didn't make the list of bottom or top, but I'm going to give that one another try. But yeah, other than that, the rest of them, I'm like, yeah, this one works. And then the other 75, I'll plan on considering catching up on over the course of time. I'll tell you what,
you know what I think we should do for our next episode?
What?
I think we should do a worth mentioning on Jean Dielman. And if we start right now, we'll be done in time to actually record the episode.
Okay. Well, you get out on Patreon, Tim, and you get signed up there, and maybe I'll consider that as well. But in the meantime, I do want to look through a couple movies on this list and see. But before I do any of that, I am going to watch the Spielberg movie that you recommended about the Fabelmans earlier is on my list for tonight. All right.
Again, it's not streaming.
What is wrong with me?
Your brain is dead.
It is dead. It's dead. Here's the thing. I'm just going to close on this. The fact that my brain is actually functionally dead based on the graph and the fact that I was able to persevere through this conversation really demonstrates my ability to navigate complex situations.
It demonstrates the amount of brain it takes to be a podcaster.
That's even better. So in closing, thank you guys so much for joining us. You guys can go out. You can go onto our social media page, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Alternate Ending, YouTube. Catch us in all of those places. And don't forget about Patreon. And we will catch you next week with our next Pass the Popcorn. Have a great week.